Why is the deadlift a better exercise than the Jefferson curl? That's what we're going to look at in this tutorial. We're going to look at 3 different benefits. We will talk about some of the benefits of the Jefferson curl and why it can be used, but we'll also talk about some of the misunderstandings about the Jefferson curl and when it's being used. So for this first part, I just quickly want to talk about what deadlift is and what the Jefferson curl is. But if we take these 2 kettlebells, when it comes to the deadlift, we are lifting a dead weight from the floor. So when we are lifting a weight from the floor, it can be known as a deadlift. But with regards to a specific part of the technique, it is when our hips go back, our chest stays up, we maintain a posture of the spine, and then we are able to get into this position and lift up a weight. So that would be considered a deadlift. When it comes to the Jefferson curl, what we're talking about is coming into this position and then basically folding forwards. So we fold forwards like so, come all the way over, we can touch the floor. With Jefferson curl, we've got the rounded back, and then we would come back up by extending the spine as well. So that is the deadlift and the Jefferson curl. The first reason that the deadlift is better than the Jefferson curl for people with lower back pain is it develops range of movement of the hip. So when we go into a deadlift, what we've got to do is we've got to use the hips. So we get elongation through the hamstring. We can also get glute medius, glute minimus stretch, mainly to the posterior fibers of it, but we would get those into the position, and then by maintaining the chest up as well, that's going to enhance a stretch and range of movement of the hip. Because we've got to go into this position, that is the range of movement of the hip. So we can go down and we can pick up from there. With regards to the Jefferson curl, what we're doing is we're getting our range of movement from the spine. So we're not getting the range of movement from the hip. So as a more effective exercise for people with lower back pain, certainly if there's hip restriction there, we would choose the deadlift over the Jefferson curl. In number 2, it's all about muscle activation. There are a few different parts of this which we'll talk about, and when it comes to the deadlift, we get much more muscle activation, and we're going to talk about a muscle activation that is thought to be a part of the Jefferson curl, which isn't really a part of the Jefferson curl, but we'll come to that at the end of this section. So with regards to the deadlift, when we come into this position, so when we get down into that position where we flex at the hip, so we flex at the hip here, we get good elongation through the glutes. What we are then able to do from there is we're then able to get more contraction from the glutes, get more activation from the glutes when we get into that hip flexed and then up into that hip extended position. So muscle number 1 is it's getting the glutes more active so they're able to do a better job, but that only comes with that part that we talked about to start with, which is that hip flexion and that hip range of movement that we get from part 1. So we get part number 1, hip range of movement, then we can get the glutes going, but not only glute max, but also glute medius and glute minimus. The second are the muscles of the low to mid back that we want working. Longissimus, iliocostalis, you could even go lats as well, but quadratus lumborum as well. So when we come into this position, this is where we get our muscle activation from, this isometric contraction. So when we've got the spine in place and we lift the weight, so when we're in this position holding over, we get much more activation from those muscles. We're going to talk about the deeper layer ones at the end when we talk about the Jefferson curl. Now, if you've got any questions about anything that I've said so far, please do just leave it down in the comment section below, and if you're liking it so far, hit the like button as well. So part number 2 is the isometric contraction from longissimus, iliocostalis, quadratus lumborum and the lats. So that's much more effective, and that has much more of a protective element on the spine as well. The third one is the abdominal wall. So this works together with the muscles of the lower back. So again, when we come down into this position and we maintain this isometric contraction of the the back muscle. So when we roll into this position, we lose contraction. When we maintain the position, we hold contraction, and then we come up and we keep contraction all the way up. That's much more stabilizing for the spine. So it's exactly the same around the front as well. So when we come down into this position, we brace and we hold the torso, or we hold the lumbar spine in place, because there's nothing else to hold it in place. So we have the muscles of the back holding it up, we have the muscles of the core around the front holding it all in place. So we've got those three main functions when we perform a deadlift. We've got the glutes, we've got the muscles of the mid to lower back, and we've got the core. Now, when we come on to the Jefferson curl, which is what I was talking about earlier, what has been said in the past is about the deep lying muscles of multifidus and interspinalis. There are other muscles in there as well, but when we talk about these muscles, what's assumed is that those are, let's just say, their primary function is movement of the spine. So what has been said is that when we come over into this position and we elongate, we are essentially decompressing the spine and elongating the spine. So that when we go from here and then up into here, we are recompressing the spine and creating compression of the spine. That's making those muscles work. That's not the role of those muscles. So the role of the multifidus, if you take vertebra, disc, vertebra, the role of the multifidus is to hold the vertebra on top of the one on top of the disc and the one below the disc. So this is the disc. So it's to hold that segment in place. So that's a part of its stabilizing role. It's not there as a movement muscle. It's there as a stabilizing muscle and a proprioceptive muscle. So what that's doing is it's recognizing the position of the spine. That's the proprioceptive nature of it. And then what it's doing, it's giving a basic stability with regards to its contraction, but it's only doing it from L5 up into L4 or L4 up into L3, because they are just little segment muscles. So where it's called multifidus, goes all the way up the spine, it's actually lots of little muscles that are called multifidus, but we just call it one muscle. So with regards to it being a strength muscle and a movement muscle, that's a little bit of a misnomer, because its primary role is proprioceptive and stabilizing. And part number 3, the deadlift is able to neutralize forces on the that are acting on the spine. So what we don't need, what is unnecessary, is excess stress to vertebra and discs. They do need to be challenged, and with a deadlift they will get challenged. But what they don't need is unnecessary stress, because it's the unnecessary stress that accumulate, create what is known as the straw that broke the camel's back, and then when you go to pick up a pencil from the floor, then you get your problem. So when we come into this position and we come over, what's happening is the vertebra essentially sort of wanting to, they won't, because there's a lot of packing material in and around the spine, but they want to sort of fall forwards. So it's known as an anterior shear, where they're getting pulled forwards, or one L4, let's say, on the top of L5 wants to move forward. So where the spine is flexed, you lose that, and the vertebra wants to fall forwards off the one below it. So that's known as an anterior shear force. Now, as those anterior shear forces build up, that's when you then start to get your problems. So when we go into the Jefferson curl, we get anterior shear force, and then when we come up and we start to contract the muscles, you don't get the posterior shear forces to neutralize it. You will only really get that at the top when the muscles are active. When you come into the deadlift and you maintain this position, this is where you then get the posterior shear forces to neutralize the anterior shear forces. So that's just one of the roles. It's also more protective. When we come into this position with the Jefferson curl, we get the flexion extension cycles. Now again, what's important here is if the weight is excessively heavy and if the back is deconditioned. So if the weight is too heavy for the lower back that it's being performed on, then it's going to cause a problem. For me, lifting that 12 kilos isn't going to be a problem with a flex spine because I've built up tolerances and capacities in my lower back to be able to do it. If I did it too many times over a prolonged period of time, then it may well turn into a problem. But for now, with regards to heavier weights, we want to be in this position and then lifting up, coming down, maintaining posture of the spine, evening out the forces on the spine and making that a much better exercise for the spine. And what we'll do in the final part is just quickly talk about some reasons why we might use the Jefferson curl. So it's not all bad news for the Jefferson curl. I do get some complaints regarding not talking about it appropriately, and so what we're going to do now is talk a little bit about when it can be used. Well, when it was essentially first invented, let's say, it was a stretch. So stretches are done at low load and they're there to open out tissues, which is fine. So using a light weight is absolutely fine. When we go down into a Jefferson curl and then we come up, going into that position, because it's very similar, albeit slightly different, that when we go down into a bodyweight squat, again, I've got a flex spine, but because I've got no load on the spine, that's okay for my spine, if that makes sense, because the load isn't there. Now, what will also happen, it will depend on where you are in your low back pain journey. Are you coming back from lower back pain? Have you just had a lower back pain? If you have, it may not be advantageous to do something like a Jefferson curl. That may come later on, but it would be done low load. It would be done as a way of restoring some movement within the spine, but it wouldn't be there to condition the muscles and condition the capacity of the muscles to do it. That will kind of come afterwards once we've done our heavy lifting and developed the muscles with a deadlift, and then we would use lighter weights, range of movement of the spine to restore that. So that's where it has its uses, and again, the weight and the movement will depend on the condition of the back, and when you do it will depend on the when the lower back pain was and the sensitivity and the condition of your lower back. If you want to learn more about how to overcome lower back pain, hit the link in the description and you'll go through to my How to Overcome Lower Back Pain workshop. That's the starting point to get you started on the journey. Then you can go into group coaching, and then if you choose to, later on, you can then go into one-to-one coaching. So if you want to start that journey, hit the link in the description and get started with the workshop.